Welcome to F1 Rolling Start. This is your American F1 podcast where we go under the helmet and over the top.
We do.
My name is James.
I'm Ben.
And we're so excited to talk about this week's GP in Mexico City. But before we do that,
you're going to do the thing here instead of 50 minutes.
Exactly. I need you to like, I need you to subscribe. I need you to go ahead and share this with any one of your other friends that is also an F1 fanatic. It would mean the world to us. Ask us a question, shoot us a message. We love to engage with the people who listen. But This week, man, it was incredible. Second week in a row, we have Ferrari taking the podium. We've got Checo out in
Q3.
Q1.
Sorry. Yeah, he was on Q1.
Q1. He's out. Piastri's out in Q1. It was a nightmare for me in my F1 fantasy, but it was a phenomenal race. The first 20 laps, I was like, what is happening here?
Oh, it was unreal. It was all over the place. There was hard racing. There was dangerous racing. There was a Mercedes that was an old spec Mercedes, keeping the updated Mercedes behind it for laps. It was a great race. It really, really was. Mexico always surprises, and this year proved no different. It's fantastic.
100%. It was wild. What was super cool is that Carlos came into this weekend feeling good.
Yeah.
And wanting desperately to have one more win in red.
He deserved it. And he even said that in the press conference in the end. He was like, I've worked hard. I wanted one more win, but I deserved one more win. And he's like, I felt good about this week. His family was here. His partner was here. Everyone was here. And it was just a great week for him.
Yeah. I mean, he was clinical in Mexico. And I don't mean like the budget plastic surgery job you get in TJ. He was absolutely proving his chops as an F1 driver. Patience pays off. I would say it's his career best win. It was a masterclass in driving.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. You want to start with Ferrari? Just
100%. I mean, they finished first, so that's our rule.
They did. Ferrari. Now here, God, these guys they haven't come out of nowhere. But they kind of feel like the last couple of weeks they've just come out of nowhere and are scoring maximum points in COTA, near maximum points in Mexico. They've taken second place in the constructors. They have pushed Red Bull into third place now. And they are in contention for first place.
100%.
Realistically, they're at 537 points in second. McLaren's at 566.
So close. That's one race weekend. One bad race weekend for McLaren.
And they just seem like they are firing on every single cylinder. I even heard a statistic this week. I was listening to Tom's podcast.
Love Tom.
And the Ferrari team was saying, listen, our pit crew is the best pit crew right now in F1.
Interesting.
And this isn't just anecdotal. This is because they're tracking this with all the data. Their pit crew is solid. Their drivers are solid. Yeah. They've somehow got a car that is working on multiple different circuits, and they're firing at the end when it really, really matters. And so, it feels surprising to me that Ferrari is actually doing this good. But here's the crazy thing too. This is only the third time Ferrari has won in Mexico.
Dude, that's crazy. I did not know that.
The third time.
That's wild.
Yeah. I didn't know that either until they mentioned it today. I was like, wait a second. Sainz is only the third Ferrari driver to have actually won the Mexican Grand Prix.
That's so cool.
But yeah.
I'm so excited because I had the option in F1 fantasy to swap out a player this week, and I swapped out Leclerc for Sainz, and I thought it was a risky move.
Oh yeah,
because Sainz has kind of been hot and cold. You never know.
Yeah, a little bit.
In Mexico, it's like high elevation. It's wild. Turn one is always crazy. You never know what's going to happen. So I was like, man, the safe bet would be to go with Leclerc, but something just told me.
Something told you.
Something told me.
Well, and I'm glad someone's paying attention to their fantasy league.
Yeah, you're definitely not.
No,
it's becoming a problem. So they are 29 points away from McLaren after this weekend. They took another massive chunk out of them the weekend before in Austin. And can I just say for a second,
please?
You and I were talking earlier, and you had mentioned the last time Max won was at the Spanish Grand Prix.
And your reply was, wait, there's a Spanish Grand Prix?
Like, how lame was the beginning part of this season in comparison from Austin on? Like, Austin last week, this week now, like, we did that. It's like they tease us every year. Like, they start with some good races, and then they do the lame historic stretch.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's all about, how incredible this is. It's the jewel in the crown. It's this, that, or the other. And it's like, it's incredible. It's about the skill. It's about the craft. It's about strategy. Yeah, no, it sucks. The
Just
racing
call it what it is.
sucks.
Yeah.
And then we get to freaking Austin, and we've got cars 3 wide.
Yeah, it was incredible.
We get to Mexico, Central America, and we've got 3 cars wide. You've got an Alpine squeezing Albon into Yuki and them flying off the place. I was like, let's just decide that America is the best.
Yes.
And that
Western
we need
Hemisphere.
I don't care if it's north, if it's central, or if it's like where
there's some great tracks over here.
Exactly.
Even let's say this. Last year, Vegas, we were both there. Everyone was ripping on Vegas. And just being like, this is going to be a terrible race. The freaking covers are coming off.
Oh, I told you this is going to be terrible. They didn't have enough time. Look at Carlos. He could have got really hurt. Yeah. And then it ripped.
A note to our one listener in China.
Smith.
I literally am coming off something. And I was like, I love F1 too much. We just got to go. So you're definitely going to hear me laughing and coughing.
Why did you reference how China listener is?
Because we have a listener in China.
Oh, it's not because you think you have COVID.
Not at all. Okay. I'm just saying our one listener in China,
right.
I'm telling them that you're going to hear me coughing a lot.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But no, but Vegas was incredible. It's a fantastic race. Max was wearing his Elvis jumpsuit.
What a legend.
And he was the one who was, being all prissy about it. So anyway, yes, we've got some great races over here. This is the backstretch of this season is fantastic racing.
Oh, it's all up to bat for the back half.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Leclerc is, especially after this weekend, he's kicking himself for not having a better representation of what could have been, because Sainz took the points that Leclerc needed to keep him in contention. He's still statistically, that was easy for me to say, statistically able. I had a problem talking last week as well.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this too. We both have kids. We're dads. We record these after long weeks. I mean, it's a wonder at sometimes we're even like sitting up.
I don't know how I'm alive.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm surprised I get home some nights.
I know.
And Leclerc needed the points. He didn't get them. Well, Carlos swept them up this week.
Well, and I'll say this here. I'm looking right now. Chuck's in 3rd place. He's got 291. He can catch Lando. Lando's 2nd with 315. But it feels, I know mathematically it's probably not out of the equation yet, but Max is at 362, Chuck's at 291. At this point, that just feels too far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But 2nd place is still very much in contention.
100%.
And again, Ferrari is hunting down at this point 1st place.
Yes.
Which would
Constructors-wise, they had a phenomenal weekend.
Oh, that was incredible.
They moved forward in such a phenomenal way.
Yeah.
Visser is loving life.
Yeah.
Everyone in Italy is contemplating whether or not to ask the Pope to step aside
and just make
him Freddie V to become the head of the Catholic Church, because the team is fighting with finesse. Ferrari's on a 2-race winning weekend streak, and it is sparking up the whole last part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, when he was first named as the new Ferrari boss, I was a little surprised because he, was at Sauber before. Was it even called Sauber at the time, or was it Alfa
Romeo?
Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Right before they changed.
And I know that everyone was like, oh, no, Chuck was with him. He has a relationship with Chuck. this is good. And I was like,
and he really was well respected around the paddock.
He was, but I was also like, but you're at a backmarker team,
100%.
like, and you're going to go to Ferrari. Yeah. Usually what we see it the other way around. We see folks who are at the front be like, okay, thanks for your time in F1. Now you're going to go and die in the backmarker teams and we'll never, ever talk about you again. Which is exactly what happened to the old Ferrari boss.
100%.
He's now going to the bottom feeding team kick.
Yes.
And he's going to be the new. So it was really interesting that Freddie V kind of did the reverse. But for some folks, you know, they're so good at what they do. And when you finally give them the right environment, drivers and team principals alike, you get to see what they're actually made of. And Freddie is one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, and it's super interesting, right? Like, at the end of the day, he's the genie in a bottle. Like, he got out of there in the right time. Because as soon as he left, the whole team just went, it crapped the bed, dude. Yeah. It's a travesty what's happened at the bottom end of the F1, top end of the F2 series in Kick Sauber. And, you know,
still advocating for them to just drop into F2.
It's literally, it's wild. But Ferrari had a phenomenal weekend, something that they can write home about, something that they should be proud about. And I just, at the end of the day, was super pumped for Sainz.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I'm excited. I think they've got a chance to go for the constructors win.
100%. It's on.
Would be phenomenal. Red Bull?
No, McLaren. Norris came in P2.
He did. We're doing that.
So we get to talk
we're going to do the 1, 2, 3
first.
Okay.
About him first. So Norris kept his cool against Verstappen.
He did.
Squeezed every ounce out of his McLaren to get that P2 finish.
He really did. We got to talk about the incidents, plural, between Lando and Max. Do you want to talk about that now or what, Red Bull?
No, we can talk about it now.
Okay. So Lando is deciding he needs to be a bit more aggressive.
And good for him.
Good for him. Lando, good for you.
And he's right, by the way.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Like, you're fighting for the freaking Drivers' Championship. Like, would have loved to have seen this, like, I don't know, 15 races ago.
100%.
But glad you're finally doing it.
Last week.
Yeah. Glad you're doing this. Him and Max come together on track like twice, a couple turns apart, and Max gets penalized for both of them.
Yep.
10-second penalties, ends up with 20 seconds that he has to serve. And all the commentary, all the feedback from the Sky Sports team and F1 and others was just like, this is too much.
It's dangerous.
This is dangerous. Max could have taken both out. You know, it's one of those things where, and again, I appreciate Max's kind of elbows out racing. And some of that seemed to have, well, I should say this. We thought Max changed because last year Max wasn't racing anyone.
Wow.
And what we're seeing now is that when Max has the third fastest car on the grid and has to race other people and doesn't just get to like sip on a latte 30 seconds in front of the rest of the pack.
Exactly.
He's not
Sacha
actually
Baron
changed.
Cohen in Talladega Night status.
He's not actually changed. He is always going to be someone who races
100%
hard/dangerous. So my question to you is, where's the line here? Is hard racing and dangerous racing, are they synonymous? Where do you feel like you're at with what Max has been doing specifically today?
Max deserved every second that he got today in penalties.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of goes back to what we talked about last week. What I will admit about last week is that I did not like what happened when he deep dived on Lando in Austin to get to the apex to say that his car was ahead of Lando.
Oh, yeah.
So that he could push Lando out.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, within the rules, he was within his rights. And last week, neither of them touched. They both went wide. They came back on. Max knew the rules, and he went. So taking advantage of the rules is good. Like, I can't be mad at somebody. I can't be mad at Max if I also am not mad at somebody for finding a tax loophole. I'm like, it's a rule. You're not breaking anything. Yeah. It's legal. Loophole away.
Yeah.
This week was different. Turn 4, he forced Lando off the track.
Yes.
And then rejoined ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Then turn 8, he takes a massive, risky lunge.
Yeah.
Like crazy. Could have been a wild accident, taking them both out again.
Yes.
This season.
Yes.
And runs both drivers wide and allows Leclerc to go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Like Lando finishes, I think it was like 4.7 or something like that seconds behind Carlos. Let's have our intern check
4.7. Yeah.
Check those.
Yeah.
/ Ben on his computer. And, we could have been in contention because Norris was hunting down Sainz at the end, but we weren't because he spent a ton of time dealing with this crap.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's one thing to say last week we should assess the rules so that someone can't do what he did. It's another thing this week when it's like, no, dude, you just straight up were not a sportsman. And here, this is my struggle because last week I said, man, he was metronomic.
Yeah.
He's taking, and then even today he gets a 20-second penalty and races the pants off of that car.
Yeah.
And overtakes people. I think he's bullying the track. I think everyone's like, either I move or he's just going to like rear end me or move me out and put me in a crazy predicament.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a fascinating way to think about it. I think a lot of drivers have just kind of let Max through in the past because 100%. He was faster than them. But maybe it wasn't just that he was faster than them. It was that he also races on the limits, and the limits being safe and dangerous.
Yep.
And so today, again, I love that Max is this bull in the proverbial china shop. I do love that about him, and I don't necessarily want him to change that, but I think there's a way to be that way without being someone who's dangerous in the way that they race. I think there's a line. I really think there is. Today, I've just been Max crossed over it, and obviously the stewards did as well. And usually we're the ones hating on the rules and the stewards. So this is kind of a weird place to be in. But at the same time, you can't take people out. This isn't bumper cars.
This is not F1 Royale. Like this, we're not doing that. Like,
yeah.
And I think I'm proud of Lando.
Oh, finally, my God,
because he wasn't elbows out. I'm trying to find. I think I wrote down what he said about Max. He said, "quote unquote," not very clean.
Yes.
That's so mild. So, but I don't care if you're mild with the press, as long as when you're on the track, you're vicious.
Yeah.
Within the healthy parameters of racing. And so what I think Lando was doing is what Lewis did to Max, where he was like, you're just not going to push me around anymore. If you're not going to leave me room, then I'm going to stay where I am.
Yeah.
And if you hit me, you hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that ended with Lewis's head getting a tread mark on it from the rear wheel of a Red Bull. But at the same time, they both raced different from then on out.
Yeah.
And so somebody needed to check Max, and Lando was there to do it. Yeah. I think it's just unfortunate that we have to get to this place where we've got stewards handing out penalties like candy to keep Max in place. And he didn't even care.
No,
he came on the radio and was like, that's impressive. And I was like, And I immediately regret saying something nice about you last week.
Like,
do you still like him?
I do, because he has this kind of like, this is who I am. Just, I'm not changing. And, but one thing I'll say is that when he did have to overcome that 20-second time penalty, he just hunted people.
Oh, head down and ripped.
It was unreal.
Oh, he head down and ripped.
Unreal.
He's metronomic. I will give him that. And he's an incredible racer. I just think when it gets to the point where pride comes into it, it's one thing to hunt down somebody while you're overtaking, not just your teammate Red Bull, but you're overtaking all the other teams, the Haas, the Alpines, the Aston Martin. You're overtaking those easily. No, they're not putting up a fight. They know that their fight's not with you. But when you get up against your rival and you can't fight clean, I have issues.
Yeah, that's something different for sure.
Yeah.
But Lando, he finishes second.
He takes that down to 47-point lead.
He cuts into Max's lead. Chuck, cuts into Max's lead. These are really, really significant points. And it feels like there's still a race. There's still a driver's championship on.
Oh, 100%. Let's talk about Piastri.
Yeah.
Finished
in 8th.
What a job Piastri has done. He gets his lap deleted in qualifying. So he doesn't even make it to Q2. He starts bottom 4 on the grid.
Yeah, him and
18th or something.
Him and Perez were way down there.
And drives all the way up into a solid points finish.
Yeah.
And it was a slow burn for him, but I think he redeemed his race after a tough qualifying. The McLaren boss, Stella, his crew, they just seem to come alive at the right moments.
Yeah.
When the team is down and out.
Yeah. No, he did. It was a redemption road scenario for him, but he needed to get into the points, especially with how hot Ferrari is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think for him to be able to drive the way he did, get a decent points haul, that really is kind of the best that he could have hoped for.
Yeah.
But also, that's just what he needed to do today for McLaren to stay ahead still, because they need to stay ahead. They're in a position to win.
Mm.
And they need both drivers scoring points.
The hard part for me is when I think of McLaren and where they are now leading the Constructors Championship, I still feel like they don't know how they got here.
Yeah,
and how to maintain it. And so when you look at Piastri's drive from bottom, quarter of the grid to P8 points finish, to be honest, I kind of expect that of McLaren. I feel like that's where they come alive. They're scrappy. They're able to pull those kind of rabbits out of the hat. But is that top 3 mentality when we reset at the beginning of 2025? Is that the kind of team strategy? Do they need to shift anything, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's a different strategy that you have to have when you're the ones out on top leading, as opposed to when you've got to be the ones that are scrappy, cutting through everyone. And so I do think that they're learning how to build the plane and fly at the same time this season.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good
there
way
will
to put
be
it.
Good lessons learned.
Yeah,
from this season, especially if they win.
Yeah,
but they'll have to take all that muscle memory for next season and just hit the ground running with that.
100%. Last thing I'll say about McLaren is it really highlights you're only as good as your last race. Piastri was coming in from this previous break that we had before Austin he was hot to trot, dude. He was the talk of the town.
Oh, dude.
It was like, okay, is it Norris or are we going to see his teammate really pushing? It was no McLaren orders. I don't want to be a number 2 driver. All of this talk.
Yeah, seriously.
Into, bro, you're out in Q1? What is happening? No, this crowd is fickle in the F1 world.
No, it really is. And you forget that was the talk.
100%.
Oh, a couple races is the difference between someone being at the top and someone being in the middle, or if you're a Perez, just at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
It's only a few races difference, and it really is like a case by case scenario.
Oh, 100%.
You can't make any assumptions. You can't take anything for granted.
No,
and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I think for him, he's looking at the last 4 races now of the season, and he's saying to himself, okay, how did I go from being the person on the grid that scored the most points to where I am now?
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting question.
Yeah. No, I agree, dude.
Overall, McLaren had a good weekend, not as good as they wanted. I think they finished free practice 3. It was a 1-2 for them, as much as a practice session indicates what it would look like. But everyone was nervous. Yeah. And had Piastri's lap not been deleted in Q1 of qualifying, it might have looked like a different shakeup on the grid. But it was.
Yeah.
And that's how racing goes.
It is. I feel like the practices are about as accurate at determining the results as you and I are in our predictions week to week. I feel like there are some practices.
Rude. That feels rude.
There are some practices where I'm like, okay, that kind of squares. And then there's some where I'm like, this was no indicator.
You know what we need to start doing is tracking our predictions and circling back on them the week after. Because it will either be awesome or hilarious.
I'm going to bet it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking, I'm like hacking over here, so we're going to keep going. But just if you hear things off mic.
Oh my gosh. You're doing great, Ben.
I'm trying to hang.
Everyone is so proud of you. All right, let's talk Mercedes. It was a civil war at Mercedes.
We haven't talked Red Bull yet.
Wait, we're going to come to Red Bull, but they're after Mercedes because Mercedes
I'm so
finished
used to
ahead of them.
talking about them.
All you want to do is talk about Red Bull. Yeah, you're good. This is great for you to learn. This is great for you to learn. We don't talk about Red Bull until they've earned to be talked about. We're not talking about them because they sucked this week. The top car finished in P6. So we're going to talk about P4 and 5, okay? And they are my team, Mercedes.
Do you feel so proud of your team that their updated car took 12 laps to get past their old spec car?
No. The only thing I feel proud about is that, and this hurts to say, is that the one driver we're keeping is officially better from a qualifying standpoint than a 7-time world champion this season. There's no way Lewis can outqualify him this season. He is officially a better qualifier in the 2024 season of Formula One. George Russell beat a 7-time world champion, and he'll be on my team next year, and he'll be continuing.
I mean, I guess
Kimi.
That's what really matters is
qualifying.
How good you are at qualifying.
Exactly. Shut up. It was a civil war. Hamilton and Russell had an intense intra-team battle.
They did. They
kind of stole the show for a little bit.
They really did, because it was like, wait a second, is Russ actually?
Poor Carlos was out front, and everyone was like, Carlos just leave him.
Come on, vamos. Yeah, no, it was one of those things where Mercedes, for a while, didn't know how they got to where they got as far as how bad they had gotten, or like where the path was forward. This season, they finally were like, we figured it out. They won some races. Now they're kind of in this place again where it's like, yeah, we're like, finishing, 8th, 5th, 9th, 6th, 4th. Like, it's like,
it's a whatever season for them.
So it's one of those things where it's like, did you really find your North Star? Because it's not really looking like it. So the inter-team battle was great, but
what do you feel like Toto's like right now? Like, what do you think the feel in the Mercedes camp is? Collect your lungs for a second. I need to
collect my freaking oxygen right now. Well, he's losing Hamilton. We all know that. He knows that. I mean, Bottas might come back, so that's exciting.
As a reserve driver.
That
doesn't count.
He's got this, this new young gun coming through. I don't know. Like, I think he has been humbled these last years. And that is a hard thing, I am sure, to, and not just be humbled, but be humbled very publicly. It's not like it's a private humbling. Yeah. It is a humbling for the whole world to see. And you fell from the top to, just being completely lost. Yeah. And then humbled again by someone who is a dear and deep friend, where they've said, I've lost confidence in this project. Yeah. And that's ultimately what it is. Yeah. Hamilton doesn't need the money. He's always wanted to race in red. But at the end of the day, if he had confidence that Mercedes was going to have a championship car again, I think he would have stayed.
It hasn't ever been, not ever. It hasn't been a question for Hamilton about money.
No.
He has more money.
Can't spend the money he has.
No, he can't spend the money that, I'm sure he can. But it's not about, if it was about money, he would have quit a long time ago. For Max, it's not about money. Max is only in this as long as he has fun and he can win.
Today wasn't fun for Max.
The moment he can't have fun and win, he's out. He's not doing it. That he's not going to
mess around. Max isn't going to ride.
He's not going to go
for like,
to kick
P20.
He's not going to pull a bot. No, he's not going to do that. And so, for me, when it comes to Hamilton, it's less about how much can they pay me, and it's more about what can you make me a part of. I want to be a part of history. For him, it seems to be more large and visionary. I think Wolf admitted it this weekend. Mercedes just doesn't cut it on these traction-heavy tracks. Yeah. They try to run the car low at Austin, and it bounces off a 7-time world champion into the gravel.
Oh, yeah. He was
they do it this week, and you've got a 7-time world champion and Russell fighting it out. And they're not going to tell Russell to move over because he's the one that's staying with him next year.
No, and so
they're just like, if Hamilton will get past, he'll get past. And of course, Hamilton in the worst spec car gets ahead of him. But the problem is that the worst spec car is their upgraded car. And so it comes full circle to the point of Toto's got to be looking at this going, he's a sharp dude.
Of course he is.
And he's reading the Ouija board and going, yo, something's not right, dude.
Yeah, it's. I anticipate that they will find their way back to the top because they have the resources, they've got the leadership. But at some point, you got to look around and say, okay, what else are we going to change here?
Yep.
Because Mercedes this year is 4th. They're not going higher. They're not going to go lower. They're racing no one. They're racing themselves at this point.
100%.
They're just racing themselves.
No, no one's going to catch them.
No.
And they're not going to catch anyone.
Yeah. So at this point,
they are what Aston Martin was last year.
Yeah. So it is, and we talk about Red Bull
sobering,
falling, but Mercedes has fallen to kind of the twilight zone. So it's not a great spot. You hope they can find their way back to the top to be really competitive. They had like a flash of competition this year where everyone's like, they're back. Is it possible? They've won a couple races. It feels like it was a one-off.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a farce. It wasn't stable ground.
No, because if it was, they would have kept the car. They flicked the car. They had some lucky weekends. They had it was the drivers last year. And then this year, it's been a mixture of the two, but they're still not where they need to be.
Yeah.
But the good news is now that we're done talking about Mercedes, we get to talk about the team that you want to talk about. We get to talk about Red Bull.
We do get to talk about Red Bull.
The camp is rattled. It's a rare slump from a usually dominant team.
Yeah.
Red Bull's in a tough place.
Dude, they are. And first off, we said this at the top that Max, the last time he won was in Spain. Yeah, he won the sprint in Austin, but doesn't count.
No, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. So it has now been 10.
Ask Crofty. It definitely doesn't count.
It's entertaining for the Americans. Thank you. It's been 10 races since he's won. It's been 2 seasons since Checo's won. 3 seasons?
Bro. Out of control.
Yeah, he's still here. And he's going to be here next year, folks. Don't you doubt it. This was not his last Mexican Grand Prix.
He'll be clad in Visa Cash App RB, but he will be here.
So Red Bull today, we already talked about the clash between Max and Lando. We talked about the penalties. Talked about the dangerous racing. One thing I did think about when Max was, coming back through the field, he came out in 15th. Checo was 16th. Now Checo had a little bit of damage. I do love it when Checo doesn't perform. They're like, oh, he had damage in the car. That's really what did it. And oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Russ still had damage on his car, and he kept Hamilton behind him for 12 laps.
Exactly.
So
the dude didn't have a front end plate.
Yeah. Enough with the damage being the thing here, but
enough with the excuses.
Enough with the excuses. But this was the thing that I thought was so fascinating. And this was a season in a race. Max is 15th. Checo was 16th. Max, by the end, came all the way back up to where he finished in 6th. You know where Checo finished? 17th.
Garbage.
So this is the difference between these two, is that Max can cut through the field, can overtake, and maybe it's because people fear him. We talked about this, right?
100%.
And this was, Michael Jordan and the Bulls, when they were dominant, it's a mental game. Your opponents, when they fear you, you have the mental edge. So when you're going toe to toe, they will crumble and you'll be victorious.
Yeah.
So when Max is going to overtake people, they're afraid he gets past them. Checo doesn't have that fear factor.
Not at all.
He doesn't. So I just thought it was such a fascinating kind of microcosm of this season, the last couple of seasons, where it's these guys could not be any more different.
Yeah, I lost a bit of respect for Checo this weekend. I've always actually been a Checo fan. I've liked Checo.
Yeah.
I think the problem this weekend is he made some comments. He had criticized Liam's attitude and said that he needed to be more humble and kind of more humility in regards to the F1 veterans. And I said, pretty sure this is a meritocracy. Pretty sure it requires merit to be the best Formula One driver out there.
Yeah.
Not saying, Lewis, you should go on by because you've won 7 world champions. Because I'm pretty sure Max didn't do that when he ripped it. No. When he cheated in 2021
there was no cheating.
And ripped it out of
Lewis' hands.
I think, Perez had a rough go. He had a crap penalty, qualifying.
Oh, yeah.
He started with a penalty because he started outside of his grid box.
Yep.
So, but my problem is he went from penalty box to the complainer's box. And you know how I feel about people that complain. I tell my son all the time, if you complain, you remain. You're never going to go anywhere if you complain. Max got a 20-second penalty.
Yeah.
He laughed it off.
Yeah.
And went ahead. Checo got way less penalty.
Yep.
And barely moved.
Got a 5-second penalty.
Barely moved.
Yeah. And went backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me,
these guys are radically different racers.
Lawson, go for it, dude. Dude, go for it.
Dude, Franco was fighting Max at one point. These guys are fighting Checo. Listen, the problem in the past was that there were certain drivers who just kind of let folks pass, Max being one of them. But if you're only as good as your last race, then the past doesn't matter.
No.
It's it's context, and context is helpful, and it's history, and that's that's nice. But guess what? You think Russ cares that he's fighting Hamilton and keeping him behind him for 12 laps? He doesn't give a dang. He's just no, I don't care that you got, a mansion full of trophies.
Right.
I don't care. I'm here to fight. I'm here to win.
Exactly.
And so
Lawson's looking at somebody who's had an incredible Formula One career.
Yeah.
And he's going, I'm sorry, dude. I'm here to build mine.
Yeah.
And so nothing says F1 like two rivals in Red Bull teams and a rookie flying down the DRS zone, giving the proverbial bird to the seat that he wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
For better or worse, Lawson is doing what we love about F1.
Well, and if you can pay for it, and if your talent can pay for it, then go for it. Like
100%.
If you're gonna like come out, if you're gonna talk a game, at least back it up with your actions. And Lawson can do that because he's freaking talented.
100%.
Piastri can do that because he's freaking talented.
Yes.
Franco can do that. These guys they've got the goods. And so like you want to see them put elbows out. You want to see them go for overtakes. You want to see them take it to these veterans.
Yeah.
We need to see that.
Horner, okay, so let me ask you this. Horner said he was disappointed in how their day went, and he thought that Lawson was a little too aggressive. My question is he?
Is Horner disappointed?
In Lawson and how it's going with Perez?
No, I don't think so at all. I think Horndog, he is cutthroat, always has been. As much as he loves Daniel Ricciardo, and has what has appeared to be a good relationship with this guy.
Yeah,
he didn't perform, so it's like, thanks, you're done. Checo, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Why he's still in the seat, we don't know. I think Horner loves that he has two teams, and that he's able to apply pressure in a way other team principals aren't.
Yes,
because this guy's got another team. And he's able to have two backup drivers who are always applying pressure to his Red Bull drivers. Ferrari doesn't have that. Mercedes doesn't have it. Yeah, you can say Mercedes has Williams. No, it's a separate team.
Not even close.
It's not even close. It's not that.
Not even close.
Red Bull and Visa Cash App Raging
Those are the only two.
Like, this is it. And so I think Horner loves that he is in a unique position as a team principal,
100%.
where he can constantly keep his front drivers, his best drivers, on their toes. And ultimately it's about how you handle the pressure. And he's talked about this as before, is like, if you're going to be here, you got to be able to handle the pressure. And you see, like Liam, this guy seems to be able to handle it. He really does. I mean, Yuki's, had a good performances this year. Yeah, there's been not so great performances as well, but he's still around. He's outlasted a bunch of his teammates.
Yep.
I think, and there are, as there always are, rumors that Liam is looking to replace Checo. I mean, at this point, I say if Liam is able to score points, able to perform strongly the rest of the season, I would be begging Horner to replace Checo.
100%. Liam said he's focused on these next 5 races are not for him to put his name in the hat for the Red Bull seat.
It already is.
Please.
If you're
a Red Bull driver, your name is in the hat.
Yes.
You don't get that choice.
This is how it works.
They made a decision over T. It's Silverstone about Danny Ricciardo. If you don't think that they're having T in regards to what is going on with Checo right now, in his self-admitted marketing and PR 101, no, never say this, I'm having a terrible season.
Yeah.
It's bad.
No,
it's not terrible. Good.
Oh God, I just remember this.
Came to your mind right in the center of your temple.
I want to say it was Crofty that said this today. He said that teams do not have the ability to have a passenger as a driver.
Ooh.
They have to have 2 drivers. Yes. And this was specifically reference to Red Bull.
Of course.
And they're saying the reason Red Bull has fallen to 3rd, and we talked about this last week, but I'm going to bring it up again. They went from winning every race save 1 last season.
Correct.
To falling to 3rd. It is Checo's fault.
100%. That's not an opinion.
It just is fact.
It's fact. That's not rumor. That's not we think. That's not conjecture. That is
is
actual bona fide fact.
Yeah.
Ben is going to tell us how many points Max has.
I am. Max has 362 points.
Checo has
150.
Okay, great. How many points? So 360 versus 150.
Yes.
How many points does Fernando Alonso have?
62.
How many points does
24?
Great. So we are looking at an extrapolated version of Alonso and Stroll effect happening at Red Bull.
Yeah, that's all it is.
This would have never happened 2 years ago.
Oh, no, because
why? We spent so much time on Red Bull, but it's worth it.
But it's fascinating to see teams at the front crumble. We saw it with Mercedes, but for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They had two really good drivers, but they just lost their way with their car. They couldn't find, the design. They were just
that was a car specific thing because the drivers, even when the car was trashed, were pretty much neck and neck.
They were still neck and neck. So it wasn't the drivers. So we've seen a team go from first to fourth, and it primarily be their car. But as soon as they can get a somewhat competitive car, these guys are winning.
Correct.
Right? Or they're racing each other. With Red Bull, for a while, it wasn't their car.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been their drivers. And now it's shifted to where it's primarily the gap, the canyon between their two drivers has just gotten wider and wider and wider. And now the car is also failing them.
Yeah.
And so they're having problems and then also inner turmoil on the team. So every single front, there's these massive failures that are taking place. And so when it's just the car, it's like, okay, we can try to figure that out. If it's like just drivers, like, okay, we'll get rid of one, replace one. But when it's the drivers, the car, the team, that is why they went from being the historic team they were last year to falling to third.
Yeah.
And they're done. They're going to be in third.
They'll be in third. There's no way back from here because it's some commentator, I can't remember who said it this week. You can't win a 2-horse race with 1 horse.
No.
And so that's where we are.
It's a team sport.
You've got Chuck and Sainz. You've got Piastri and Norris. And you've got Max and who? Blank. You might as well have him driving a Red Bull and then have Kick as their teammate because the amount of competitive points we're seeing from Checo this season, in a word, is unacceptable.
It's been unacceptable for a long time, and it's frustrating as a fan of Red Bull, of Max, to see that massive disconnect. And it doesn't make any 100%. Sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Massively frustrating.
To move on to a more happy subject, I have a new 4-letter word that is my favorite word.
What is it?
Haas.
These guys.
It is everything.
These guys.
Double points. Literally last week, we said what we are waiting for is a solid, undeniable double points finish.
Yes.
And do you know what they delivered us?
A double points finish.
Bam. Magnussen says, fine, I'm out of Formula One. I'm going to freaking give it everything.
Swan song. It's a swan
Come
song.
on. It is the story to end all stories.
Oh, it's incredible.
I have images of Top Gun. Yes. I have images of fighter jets flying by, the American flag, Chris Stapleton music. I mean, it's just, I can't get enough of Haas. They get this Toyota signed.
I know.
I mean, Toyota's not even close to American.
No.
But Ao better do it.
Oh,
he's going to keep leading this team into the future.
Have brought upgrades, and unlike Mercedes, their upgrades actually make them faster.
Yes.
They are actually working. And again, for context, these guys shouldn't even be here. They've got a tiny team.
No.
They're this scrappy startup. They barely have sponsors holding them together. And yet they're taking it to these big teams. And I mean, at this point, right now, they're 6th place with 46 points. Visa Cash App is in 7th with 36. That's only 10 points. But the canyon that's 10 points at that part of the constructors is a mile wide.
100%. That's like a foot that's really like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally insane. Last year, 2023, they scored a grand total of 12 points, and they were 10th place. And this year, where points are impossible to come by.
Impossible.
Because you have 4 teams that are making up the top 8 places every single week.
Mm-hmm.
They have done really just this impossible feat.
I mean, let's just talk about the fact that Kevin Magnussen was behind a Red Bull.
Oh, unreal.
By like 4 seconds behind
I was like,
Max
wait,
Verstappen.
what are you doing?
4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen
it was unreal.
In a freaking Red Bull. And he was second ahead of Oscar Piastri.
Dude,
he was holding off a McLaren.
It was unreal.
Incredible. And then you have Hülkenberg fighting in P9. I mean, it's P9, but it is like if you told me that we were going to have a finish at a race and it was going to be a Haas, McLaren, Haas, I would say, no, you can have, I will bet all the money in my entire account that will never happen. And here we are with Kevin Magnussen in P7, Oscar Piastri in P8, and Nico Hülkenberg in P9. And don't say, we'll give it another 10 laps. Sorry, this is an F1 race. You don't get another 10 laps. No. This is the race. This is where they ended.
I mean, it was incredible. It's exactly what you want. It's a phenomenal story to see just an unreal turnaround from one season to another. And there's so much momentum.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that is infuriating to me.
Say it.
I said it last week. I don't care. I'm going to say it again this week. McLaren's got all this great momentum. And next year, it's going to be awesome. Both their drivers are still there. Their team's intact. Fantastic. Ferrari, they've got this great momentum. And they're bringing in an even better driver in Hamilton, right? Haas has great momentum. And they're starting from scratch next year. Where it's like, you've got these 2 drivers finally figured it out. And by the way, these are 2 drivers who couldn't stand each other.
Right.
They literally were the 2 drivers who, when everyone heard that it was going to be Hulk and Mag, they're like, wait, these guys hate each other. How is this going to work? And we're getting double points finish.
100%.
So I think that's my only
because we go to Albon and
I go to Williams right away. I'm just like, wait a second. Is this going to be a Williams scenario where last year they were great,
and then
this year they've been struggling?
Right.
So
but last
that's
year
my
they weren't
only
great.
thought. With
last
Haas.
year Albon was great.
Yeah.
And this year,
I'm nervous for Haas next year.
I mean, yes, but however, to play devil's advocate,
please do.
Let's compare Albon and Hülkenberg. Yeah, Albon and Hülkenberg. You could argue, numbers wise, Albon is a better and more experienced driver than Hülkenberg over the course of their career, because Hülkenberg has never won a race. Albon has won a race.
Wait, which race did Albon win?
What do you mean, what race did Albon win?
Albon won a race?
Yes.
When?
Okay, let's pull up his stats right now.
This is a fact.
I'm pulling up Esteban Ocon. Okay.
No, Ocon. You said
Ocon.
Albon. You said Albon.
Oh, I was talking about Ocon. Because Ocon's coming into... Yeah, this is my bad. Let's start all over again. Let's compare Ocon and Hülkenberg.
Oh, I don't like that comparison.
But that's who we're flipping out. So their experienced driver is going to be Ocon. Yes. Ocon, in comparison to Hülkenberg, statistically, he's a better driver.
I mean, yes. I won't debate you on that.
No, there's no debating on that. I
can't stand him.
More points, more podiums. He's a better driver.
Yeah, not this year, but yes.
Not this year, but in general.
Career, yes.
And Hulkenberg, this is probably his best year in a really long time.
Oh, I mean.
And so we're looking at next season where it could be okay with Ocon. It could be okay.
He may be a better driver, but he's not a better teammate.
No, he's not a better teammate, but Berman's not going to. He's not bouncing on the scene and ripping it apart at Haas.
I mean, he bounced on the scene at Ferrari.
I don't know.
Dude, if they have a car that's competitive.
Here's the thing, though. I'll say this. Haas in general, Komatsu has come out with his all or nothing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not just fighting for points anymore.
Their wins? Podium?
Haas, maybe not. Let's not go that far. But they're swinging for the midfield.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
They're
coming for Aston, I think.
We're not looking at a team anymore. They were kick last season.
Yes, they were.
And now they just took another chunk out of Visa Cash App RB.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Almost the death blow. At this point in the season,
100%. That was a 1-2 punch and an uppercut.
KO.
It was done, finished. It was the finishing move in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It was over.
Yeah,
and I don't know if next year they're going to be able to compete with this again. But they've got some secret sauce with him.
I mean, they do. And it's almost like McLaren gets to the front and is like, what do we do? How do we, win and lead as a front team? I think Haas might be experiencing some of that where it's like, we caught lightning in a bottle. Now, how do we keep it alive kind of thing? But I feel that they have momentum. They have the energy. They've got good direction. They've got new sponsors. They've got new partnerships. I'm hoping they can continue to get more momentum, bring in more money, bring in more sponsorships. People want to get behind a team that has that momentum, and right now they do. And so I'm hoping next year can be another step up to where they are fighting with the Astons. Yep. They are consistently in the mid-pack. Time will tell, obviously. But 100%. This was an incredible weekend for them. They couldn't have asked for better. They really couldn't have.
No, absolutely not. And I'm excited for what is going to come of Haas moving into next year.
Yep, me as well.
And I love him. Let's jump into Alpine. So Gasly, he toughed it out for P10.
Yeah.
Last lap save, grabbed a point. The Frenchman is fighting back.
Yeah, I mean, he's their guy for next year. Wait, they're promoting their reserve driver for the second seat, correct? Alpine? I actually don't know who's in the second seat.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
But
clearly we love there. Alpine so much.
We should know. I literally, my only notes were Gasly and P8 by lap 28.
Yeah. Jack Doohan's going to be driving for Alpine next year.
I have nothing to say about Alpine this weekend besides, Gasly.
Ocon gambled and started from the pit lane, didn't pay off. Had to replace, I think it was his battery or something.
I feel like and maybe it's because I don't care, so it's like I'm not paying attention, but I really don't feel like there's a whole lot of anything around Ocon right now. At all.
No. He's definitely not performing at Gasly's level. That's for sure.
No, and
in
he
any way,
hasn't
shape,
been
or
for
form.
Several races.
I mean, I don't know what their points are, what the point gap between them is. I don't think it's that far apart, but you can just tell from the way that they race and how invested they are that it seems like Ocon's kind of just given up.
Yeah, I mean, Gasly's got 9 points. Ocon's got 5.
You can't really even call that anything. They're just grasping for straws at this point.
Yeah.
So we had a Spaniard end at 1. Finished the race, won the race. we had another Spaniard coming to the grid for his 400th Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso. An incredible driver. Ended in heartbreak.
Why? I didn't even know. They didn't even
as
say.
he's had brake issues that cut his race short. Some kind of overheating or this, that, or the other. No celebration. It was a bit of an uncomfortable moment because everyone was making a really big deal of it and they didn't even finish the race. Stroll was in no man's land. It was...
Yeah, I didn't see him.
They had overheating issues the whole time. They couldn't get any performance out of the Aston Martin. Pace was not there today.
Yeah.
They could not deliver. One to forget for Aston, which seems to be a bit of the theme this season.
Just the whole season. Just nothing to write home about.
I don't have anything other than what I've said.
No, the only thing I had was 400 GP. This is unreal. OG status for Alonso.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, when you think about it, like, the Sky commentators today were talking about how in the past, some of these, OG champions, they would have like 2 or 3 world titles within like 90 races.
Yep.
And then they're comparing it to some of these guys who like Hulk or some of these other folks who have been around for a lot of races and don't have a win.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it feels different.
Yes.
But you think about Alonso, this guy who 400 starts, he's still got more mileage on him. He's still got more in his contract.
100%.
I mean, and he's going to be in an Adrian Newey car like coming up. Like,
yes.
There's the potential for this guy to get some wins again.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting. So, I mean, the only thing about Aston right now that excites me is Adrian Newey and Alonso.
Yeah. Newey's going to have a minimal effect on the 2025 car.
Yeah. This will be, obviously,
2026 could come out swinging. I think Alonso still has it. Out of all the people on the grid that I don't think should be on the grid, he is not one of them. In any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
His teammate, I think, is clear on how we feel in regards to that. The pace wasn't there today. It hasn't been there today.
No.
Crack's team could not deliver on the goods. I hope they regroup in Brazil. I doubt it.
I just think it's just, you just kind of...
I think this is their story.
You show up and you call it a day. And I mean...
And that is the perfect segue into another team that seems to be showing up and calling it a day, and that is Williams. It is awful.
Yeah, I mean, Albon's out.
First lap.
First corner. I mean, first couple corners, like he's just done.
Shattered in the first corner was his luck.
Yeah, but no, Williams, they're in a really tough spot as well, especially right now as a team. They're in the Constructors. They're 8th. They're not going to catch 7th. Alpine could catch them, and they could finish, one lower and 9th.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only, no, I was going to say a bright spot. There's no bright spot.
There's no bright spot. Look, James Vowles loves data. He's an analyst. They're getting plenty of data. And they're getting no points. And for me...
Yeah. I mean, they had a double points finish a couple races ago, but that was like the one bright spot in this entire season.
Really? It's a sad story for me. They are what I wish I was... And this is hard for me to say as an American, but I was expecting to be talking about them the way that I am talking about Haas.
Yeah.
Based off of how Williams ended and operated last season, I was expecting them to be fighting and pushing their way into the midfield this year.
Which is what makes me a little nervous for Haas next year. Sometimes this happens.
But the thing about Haas that's different is their leadership is different. And so it'd be one thing if Gunther kind of stumbled his way into success again. But it's not Gunther. It's somebody else. And so, but it is James. Yeah. And it's James again. Now, it could have been that 2023 was just better than they thought they could possibly do.
Yeah.
And it was ahead of their 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Or it could be a sign of what is to come. As bad as Williams finished with Colapinto in P12, even despite his post-race penalty, RB had a worse week.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough for RB. DNF for Yuki on the straight before he even gets to turn one. And
went from bad to worse.
And then Lawson's in 16th. There was some bright-ish moments for Lawson. You know, he was out there, you know, there was some scrappy moments. There was some hard racing moments. But it was good.
And some tough luck.
Yeah, there was
some bad moments this weekend for them.
It was just not a great weekend for the team, by and large. And so, yeah, I mean, we've already talked a little bit about Liam and Checo and, you know, potentially Red Bull.
I feel bad for Liam. He was stuck in traffic. He couldn't catch a break.
Yeah.
The car seemed to actually have the pace. It's just that the results seem to be eluding them this week.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting to see where Yuki landed had he not crashed out in the first lap.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I don't know how to assign blame to that three-way moment between Alpine, Albon, and Yuki because
it's fog of war almost.
It's the first lap. Like, it's organized chaos.
Yeah, I mean, you wind all these cars up and you let them go, and it's a miracle that anyone gets away cleanly.
At any track.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't care what track you're at. It's literally a crazy time. And so I just remember watching it and just seeing an RB bouncing down backwards as all of the cars are coming towards us. And I was like, that doesn't seem right.
This is not good.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a weekend to forget. I'm sure it was frustrating for the team.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was kind of on-track skirmishes with Checo and obviously with Yuki and Albon. It's just tough luck weekend. I don't think it's what Liam wanted.
No. And again, he was coming off a great weekend in Austin where he had, you know, the team said 0 expectations and he comes out and he scores.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously this week, disappointing finish, both for him and for the team. And so I think we'll see where he goes the rest of the season. Obviously, it's hard to know like what's on the line. I mean, we can all speculate. But is that second Red Bull seat really something that he's fighting for? You know, is that something that's like really in contention? Is his performance?
He says no.
He says
he's
no.
not focused on it.
I don't believe that. I think
what
it is.
Red Bull driver is not focused on it?
Of course, that's why you're in the car. So like, I think that, you know, it will be interesting. Like if his performance these last few races is a make or break for him in that Red Bull seat.
Well, my question to you is this: why are we talking about Liam when we've had another Red Bull driver that has outscored every teammate other than Gasly that they've ever given him?
Yeah.
And you could argue that one of the reasons why he didn't outscore Gasly, we're talking about Yuki, is because it was his rookie seasons when Gasly was like training him up and taking him under his wing. And so we have Liam Lawson, and now he's the guy that's taking the Red Bull seat because he had a good weekend in Austin and an average weekend now in Mexico City. Why is Yuki not the option? It's not a Honda is pushing for Yuki to be their Japanese driver for their Japanese engine in a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, Honda's also leaving Red Bull, but I mean, that's a great question. The way I think about Yuki is there are a lot of drivers who come through Visa Cash App and their goal is to get to Red Bull. I think with Yuki, Red Bull doesn't see him that way.
Why?
I don't know why they don't. I really don't. It might be his temperament. It might be they may feel like he's just not able to handle the pressure of that seat. There's been moments where he's cracked even this season. Where do you remember when he freaking like dive bombed Danny Rick in one of the first races?
Yeah.
After the race was over,
aggressive.
It was a bit much. If I'm Horner, I'm like, and that guy's never coming into a Red Bull seat. Like these are the kind of things you're thinking because you're like, wait, this just shows a temperament that can't handle pressure or can't work well with it. And obviously, things have changed and folks have said that Yuki's matured and this and that, but I don't know that he has what it takes as far as kind of just that resilience and that maturity to be in the second Red Bull seat. And I don't think Red Bull sees him that way.
Yeah.
Just full stop.
Man.
Which is too bad because he's obviously beaten
a great driver.
Other teammates. He's outlasted some of the most popular, racers in the sport. But I just don't think that he's someone who Red Bull sees in the same way.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting story. I'm curious about RB. I'm a little disappointed in their overall performance this season.
Yeah.
Not doing great.
I mean, for being the sister team to the most dominant team last year.
Yeah.
We came into this season being like, oh my God, these guys, they've got Danny, they're going to come out and they're
I guess my thought that I go to is imagine if Yuki was in the seat instead of Perez. How many more points would Red Bull have?
Or how many less? I mean, it's
a bit of a 50-50, but Perez isn't giving you nothing.
Yeah.
The closest he got to performance ended up with a last lap crash with Carlos Sainz. So that's where we ended with there. And then there's one more team to talk about. And this kick, let's just get it over and done with. Bottas, one-stop strategy, finished 14th. Mm-hmm. Honestly, valiant effort.
Yeah,
impressive. I did not think I was going to see a kick ending 14th. I still hold out that they'll get 1 point.
It's always a downer to end the episode talking about kick, but they are always the ones we end on. At this point, like, how do you motivate?
You don't.
How do you keep your people showing up, going all over the world when they know they're going to get 0 points? They're probably going to be 19th and 20th.
There's no step forward for them. That's the frustrating part. Like, Randy Joe comes out this weekend and his brakes were overheating. So he couldn't really race. He was just managing, lifting, and coasting the whole time. Now, Bottas, through a one-stop strategy, was able to do some performance. I think the one thing I want to talk about is the last seat that's open.
Yes.
Bottas is not confirmed yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're probably not going to know until mid-November. Let's open up a conversation. Do they keep Bottas or do they go with some fresh blood?
Well, Bottas is a great driver.
He is.
Bottas is a race winner.
Yep.
He is clearly better than the car and the team that he's been with. We talked about this before the race too. Mm-hmm. Like this idea of like the price of stability, the price of a contract.
Yeah.
Bottas is paying that price and it's costing 100%. Him dearly because he's, in a team and with a car that can't perform. I think Bottas is on the grid as a backup driver, so not on the grid, but in a team. But I think there is a shift in F1 looking into the future.
Yes.
And pulling in young blood.
Yes.
From F2. And these guys are so good.
Yes.
And so I think that, I don't see why they wouldn't look into that future because they don't necessarily need 2 veteran drivers.
No.
They've already got Hulk coming over.
Yes.
So if I'm them, I would pair Hulk with
Franco.
Yeah, God. Now, does Franco want to go there? I mean, I don't know.
That's another question.
But that's what I would do.
I agree. I think what we're seeing is the end of an era. And we didn't talk about this before the show, but I'm so glad you're on the same page as me. I think what we're going to see is the end of the safe bet. We know this person will be successful, so we'll put them in the car. Yeah. Because I don't think this is the upside of an increase of popularity in Formula One. I do not believe that you can coast along with a average safe bet driver anymore.
No.
It's not the narrative that our world wants, and it's not the narrative that this sport deserves.
Yeah,
this sport needs jeopardy. This sport needs up and down moments. It needs a Williams team to go from a driver that we thought was outperforming the car in Alex Albon to suddenly being matched by a rookie that no one even thought would be in Formula One after a couple races. We are talking about an unfortunate last few years where so many young driver talents have gone unused because of a stagnant field.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Bottas, as much as I think he's hilarious, he has incredible history from a race driving perspective. He's better than most people that have seats next year.
Yeah.
However, I want new blood.
Yeah.
I want fresh people in this sport. Franco Colapinto, born in 2003.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. And when you think about it too, like Hulk deserves a seat. He's crushed it this year, performed probably one of his best years.
Yes.
And he's someone who's he's taken a step back. He's come back. He's fought his way back into a seat. Like he understands how to navigate all of those things.
100%.
He has a lot of maturity in that way. And he's the perfect person to be able to speak into a new driver.
Yes.
And like you don't, I think that's the route you go.
Yeah.
Bring in someone new.
Let me ask you this. Would you be disappointed if it was the rumor is that Bottas has been offered the reserve driver position at Mercedes? My thought is, why wouldn't you offer that to Franco? Who would you prefer in that role and why?
Mercedes is already going with young driver for the second seat. Mm-hmm. So I think for them, they're probably looking to kind of balance the team a bit as opposed to just having like all young drivers. And they're probably looking for someone who can give them a lot of feedback. Someone who can actually who understands the culture, understands the team, someone who's doing a lot of the sim, a lot of the testing, and who can actually give direction. And I think you're looking for someone who understands how to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it doesn't make sense to bring Franco to Merc because they've already got Antonelli. He's their, rising star apparently. And I think for a reserve driver position, the function's different. And I think a Bottas slots into that function probably better than a Franco. And so, I think that actually makes more sense. I'm not disappointed. I would be disappointed if Franco is nowhere on the grid next year.
Then you're probably going to be disappointed.
I know I am, which is frustrating.
Yeah, but that is what it is.
That's right. That's F1. That's the competitive nature of this. There's some folks who deserve to be there. There's some folks who don't. And Franco deserves to be there. Bottas deserves to be there. But you only got 20 seats. So what can you do?
Well, what we can do is look towards the Brazil race of next week. So last year we had Max Verstappen ending in first place. We had Lando Norris in second. We had Fernando Alonso in third. And Sergio, get this, Lando Alonso ended the race in third. 34.155 seconds ahead of first place. And Sergio ending 34.2 .2058. About 53 hundredths of a second.
Yeah, it was unreal. Photo finish.
Year. Where do we think the results are going to be for this year? Who's going to win? Who's going to be in second? And who's going to be in third? Because we're right every time.
We are. Ferrari, I'm gonna go with them being either a 1-2 or a 1-3. Again, I think they're on a rip right now. They're coming for McLaren. Red Bull is all over the place. Mercedes is not consistent enough to be in the mix. So I think Ferrari's going to be 1-2 or 1-3, and then I would throw Lando in there. I don't
think I entirely know what your 1, 2, and 3 is.
No, I don't either.
Okay,
I don't either. I'm just saying
some names. Give me some names. First place,
Chuck.
Okay, first place,
Chuck. Sainz,
okay.
and then Lando.
So you think Ferrari's going to go 3 race weekends in a row?
These guys got some mojo right now, and I don't know what
they got some mojo.
And I mean, Red Bull doesn't have any. Mercedes is like, wait a second, our old car is faster than our new one. And then McLaren, like, yeah, they're still fast. They got pace. But Ferrari's got the vibe right now.
I'm going to go for this is crazy, but I have to.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Lando win.
Okay.
I'm going to go Piastri second. And I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton third. Oh my God. Because something happens in Brazil. He came second last year in a trash car. Trash.
I mean, anything's possible.
That car was garbage, he came second.
Yeah, I think they dropped it in the ocean on the way back to the UK.
100%, and they should have. They should have Megatroned that
just
thing.
Just open the back of the plane
depths
and
of the Atlantic.
Throwed it out.
Yes, dropped it from a C-30 flying over the Indian Ocean. I don't care what they did to that car. Yes. But something happens with the honorary citizen of Brazil. When he gets there, he gets down.
Alrighty.
I'm going to go 1-2 McLaren, Mercedes third, and that would be a really good weekend for me. And to back it up, I'm going to do it in my fantasy team. No matter what happens, I'm going to make that work. I actually don't know if I can with the cost cap, but I'm going to try. I will do my best. I will at least have Hamilton in it. Ben won't change anything because he hasn't for the last 8 weeks. And on that amazing note, this is the end of the F1.
We've reached the end. Podcast. We've reached the end.
If you're listening, thank you for this 122-minute episode.
Oh my God.
We will see you guys next time.